This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Welcome to Ag Matters PM for this October the 31st, Halloween. I'm Dustin Hoffman. We'll have a look at the closing markets coming up here very soon. But first, harvest progress is all but wrapped up in the state. We're going to talk now with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig, as he's one of those farmers that's wrapped up, and talking about what he's been hearing from around the state. Secretary, I hear good news for you guys up there in Palo Alto County on the Naig acres. Finished up the harvest, did you?
Yeah, we did just about a week ago, and it's always a blessing when harvest is done, the combine is put away. But of course, we all know that there's a tremendous amount of work that happens even after the combine is put in the shed. And of course, right now, because of the government shutdown, we don't have those official USDA numbers on harvest progress. But you know, we can look back over the 5-year average, and of course, on average, we are almost always nearly done with soybean harvest, and maybe about 3/4 of the way done on corn harvest. And I have to tell you, I traveled pretty extensively over the weekend up into Northwest Iowa, and there's certainly some. You see, every now and then you'll see a bean field, but there's some corn yet to come out of the field. But I know that we're likely ahead of schedule, just given what I'm hearing across the state. So we had a good year. We're always pleased to be done.
You know, we were hearing from a few farmers and a few agronomists too, though, that they were kind of suggesting that, you know, the beans could probably hold out a little longer, but with like southern rust and things on the corn, the weakening stalks and stuff, it was more of, you better get that before it hits the ground, because, you know, the beans will hold on just a little bit longer.
Well, yes, and unfortunately, we've had, oh my gosh, the wind over the last couple of weeks. When you're talking about those, 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts, it's gonna test that stock strength. And again, I've been hearing that too, folks saying we want to get out there and get after it and get it in the bin. But hey, it usually does take us well into November to finally say, on a statewide basis, of course, that corn harvest is done. But boy, there's folks working hard even this week, and we know it'll be done soon.
Have you heard anything about, obviously, like I said, we're waiting for those numbers about the government shutdown, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But what have you been hearing? I mean, generally, has it been varied as some people have thought it was going to be?
Yeah, of course, for me, it's just anecdotally as I talk to folks. But I tell you, I've got everything from folks telling me that it's better than last year, and last year was really good. So I think we're going to have some record yields in parts of the state. I think even some pretty big swaths of the state. And then I hear from folks saying, yes, southern rust was an issue, and probably hearing even more so people saying we had too much water at times, and that is actually what they're attributing some of their yield losses to. So you hear everything from, hey, on par from last year, a few percent down from last year, and then you hear some pretty dramatic yield reductions due to the combination of too much water and rust. So I think we're going to see a tremendous amount of variability. And unfortunately, I think we're going to have some pockets where the yield losses were pretty dramatic.
And that was Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. And it's time now to look at the closing markets. And for that, we're talking with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. Curt, we're wrapping up the week, an interesting week, especially when we're talking about possibly some trade news here. Well, we did get some trade news with China, but markets kind of in quiet and reaction. What did we see on this Friday?
Held in there. Corn was mixed on the day, but corn finished 7 to 8 cents higher on the weekly chart. Soybeans came back and closed into new highs on the deferred contracts. They were up anywhere from 7 to 9 cents, but up over 49 to 57 cents on the week. And wheat was up 5 to 8 cents on the day, and they were up 15 to 20 cents on the week. Products were mixed. Meal was the star of the week. It just like a bottle rocket, it took off, but the bean oil was on the sell side of the program there. Of course, on the day, the funds bought about 4,000 corn, 3,600 wheat, and about 3,000 soybeans. Sold 4,400 bean oil and bought about 2,000 meal. Spent most of the night trying to decipher what was said there yesterday afternoon. Wasn't real specific on the time frame, season, but we needed to know whether it's calendar year or marketing year. The way I understand it here this afternoon going home Friday is 12 million metric tons in the next 3 months, then 25 metric tons preceding that. Now, the thing is, there's been a lot of purchases in Brazil or South America, so COFCO is probably going to move those purchases to the U.S. Since they bought them at much lower levels in the Southern Hemisphere. So a lot of dynamics taking place in the world shipping schedules and channels. We'll see what happens here, but it's a shot in the arm. Chinese grain buyers are mum on it. They say, well, we'll probably try to buy some, but no real firm commitment. This is not in writing yet. So we'll see what comes in the fine print as we move forward. The biggest thing is, are they going to be able to, stick to it? I don't think there's any consequences to if they buy and then cancel, but there's going to be some demand in the markets reflecting that, and we'll see what happens. What this means for transportation, from here on out, the transportation is going to be focused on beans. So corn transportation is going to be on the back burner, which suggests maybe weaker corn basis after the first of the year.
That's one thing that's been interesting. I think that we can all agree on whether it's this side of the Pacific or the other side. I think everybody's just trying to spend the last couple of 24, 36 hours trying to figure out what does it mean for us now going forward. I think they're just as wanting to get as much clarity as we are. Moving over to the livestock side of things, Curt, cattle and hogs, how did they fare today?
It's lower on the fats. They were a couple bucks, $1, $2 lower. The weekly chart down 4, feeders down $2. They were down 12, 16 cents. Kind of off the chart lows. If you're bullish, we've got some chart gaps up there. We're going to go try to fill someday, hopefully. But just lower on commodity fund liquidation. Hogs finished mixed on the daily chart and down about $50 to $1.50 on the weekly chart. They're over sold. So basically the meat markets continue to do its thing. I wouldn't be surprised if hogs can start to gain on cattle on the spread here. The big question is the border and beef imports out of Argentina. So those remain the hot topic here as we move forward. If you're a producer, maybe try to lock in some feed needs here, but I think feed needs basis on corn will be a little cheaper after the first of the year.
All right. Well, a lot of things that are going to be happening in the dynamics in both grain and livestock in the next couple of days and weeks. Curt, if folks want to follow along with kind of what agmarket.net's keeping an eye on and maybe pick your minds there to see what kind of options they have available to them, what's the best way for them to start that ball rolling?
1-800-779-1515 or agmarket.net.
All right. Curt Kimmel's been our guest here. Curt, you have a great weekend. Happy Halloween, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
You bet. Take care. Catch you next week.
Thanks to the folks at agmarket.net for the closing market analysis. Let's take a look at the numbers on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen. At the close, December corn was up 1 1/4 at 431 1/2. November beans up 8 1/2 at 10.99 3/4. Soybean meal up $6 at 321.60. Soy oil down 97 cents at 48.68. Chicago wheat up 9 3/4 at 5. Spring wheat out of Kansas is a nickel higher right now at 522 1/2. Minneapolis spring wheat is 2.5 cents higher at 5.53 even, and oats up 6 3/4 at 2.89 3/4. Live cattle down $1.42 for December at 229.67. November feeders down $2.95 at 338.87. Lean hogs for December were 45 cents higher at 81.27. Cutouts unchanged at $95 even. And Class 3 milk today closed down 26 cents at 17.40. And that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content, including replays of this show, podcasts, and much more at iowaagnet.com. For Riley Smith and Mark Magnuson, I'm Dustin Huffman. Have a great weekend. You're watching Ag Matters PM.